Hello, replay viewers. We are in a recliner bus on our way to Soc Trang. Is it's my attempted way to pronounce the city we're going to, Soc Trang. So we're in southern Vietnam, and it is not frequently traveled by tourism. I was lucky enough to meet a local at one of the bus stops where we had a rest, and he introduced himself to me, and we got to talking, and turns out he lives in Vancouver, and he teaches, I think he instructs tractor driving, or he's a tractor driving instructor out in British Columbia. So his family is in the area where I'm staying, and I believe I have an open invitation to meet his family, and maybe we can do some activity together. I don't know, share a meal, something to that effect. So I'm looking forward to seeing where that leads. My new friend, as I call him, his name is Tam. So things are looking up, and one of the highlights of Soc Trang is the floating market. Now, floating markets are traditional, and they go back into history, and it stands to reason where people traveled along rivers. This is how trade and transport from place to place occurred. People would get in boats, bring their their belongings or whatever they had to trade, and travel to different parts, I guess, that you can access with a river boat. And this is how people moved around. So there are fewer and fewer floating markets, from what I understand, because roadways and motorcycle transport have reduced the need for traveling by boat, and so they've kind of gone by the way, and only remote regions where people continue to use the traditional methods, you can find authentic floating markets, and not for show, which apparently I'm told is the case, like in Thailand. I can't verify this, but it was something that was brought to my attention by Vietnamese who were talking about the differences between their floating markets and the ones in Thailand. So we're about maybe a half hour away from our destination. So I figured I'd just, because you can see waterways are quite often. I saw some boats, and I thought it would be a nice opportunity, even with a sort of a glary window, just to get an idea of what the lesser developed parts of Vietnam look like, or in the process of being modernized. You can just see for yourself that roads are being made here, or renewed, and it's a function of where the country is at the moment. So we're in the southern extremity. We're south of Ho Chi Minh City, and it looks different, from a very modern urban center, but there's a certain allure of the simple life, as it were, for lack of better describing. So I'm looking forward to what this place has to offer. I'm here for the next 3 days, and I'm going to determine where my next jumping off destination is going to be. So hopefully, you will be apprised of my next move as soon as I know where it is that I'll be going. So I'm going to just momentarily show you here. And this is the recliner bus. So it is a very good way of going for a 6-hour ride and not really feeling worse for the wear. Being reclined is a bonus. So I think we're dropping people off, and I have my other phone which has my location and my destination, and the gentleman who's just ahead of us there, he knows my destination, and so it's part of his job to make sure that I get off at the right stop, and they're very good at what they do, by the way. I mean, there's always room for mistakes, but you make your effort to make sure you know where you are, and everything works out. So I've been to the extreme north, and the extreme north is very mountainous, very hilly, very mountainous. It's near the border with China. So what I can tell you is the difference here is the number of tributaries, rivers, brooks, maybe canals, and there seems to be lack of hills, but lots of greenery. So it's kind of nice seeing different vegetation, topography. We're a few kilometers from the coast. I think it's called the Sea of Thailand, or I think Thailand is in its name. So we're kind of we curl under a peninsula which brings us close to both Thailand and Cambodia, if my geography is still fresh in my mind. I'll get back to you on that. Anyway, why don't we just continue watching the roadside view. So I can see a lot of lumber is being used here, as well as prefabbed concrete. And I would expect the menu selection, for eating, is going to be traditional Vietnamese for this region. So I'm not expecting anything extraordinary. I've eaten what was offered up north in Hazang, and it's it's satisfying, but it's nothing like the cuisine you can get in the major centers. which I certainly availed myself of. So I'm not going to be put out by having a limited menu choice. So we will see what that brings, and I would expect I'll be eating on a live stream again, and hopefully, we might have like an Anthony moment where we find something surprisingly good. Because generally, in all places, what grows locally is freshest, and that's what you focus your menu on. Whatever is fresh and from the area you're in. So I'm looking forward to that. I do expect Soc Trang to be somewhat a little more like a town, as opposed to I guess you could call this suburban, on the way to town. So there is that. You might have structures that are 4 or 5 stories high, as opposed to just 2-story buildings, which is what we're 1-story and 2-story buildings, which is normal when it's kind of not the actual architecture, but the height of the buildings reminds me of Belize. When I was traveling in Belize, I noticed, apart from the city, there weren't a lot of buildings higher than 2 stories. So what is nice is people who are traveling by bus, if they're coordinated with their family members are here awaiting their arrival on motorbike, so they can ferry them wherever their home is. I like that. I like that kind of coordination and ability to use modern technology like phones and timing and bus schedules and the like to to just limit waste of time. So we can see some garbage in this area across the street. So there's this type of canal here, and I guess it's also where garbage gets thrown, which is unfortunate, but I expect with modernization that eventually there'll be money to clean up all of the garbage, and then have a sort of a maintenance, because that's what I've noticed in the larger centers, is that there's actual money in maintenance of streets, and they're quite clean, so you don't see a lot of rubbish, and I have a feeling that it's a function of how wealthy the area is in terms of the tax collection and how much money they can stream to beautifying the municipalities or whoever's responsible for looking after and planning in this area. Anyway, I'm sure somebody local who's in city government would be able to elaborate on that. We're going to power down because I expect it's going to be more of the same, and we've got a good 15 minutes or so of what the southern topography, the foliage, what grows here, the waterways, what it kind of generally looks like. And I'm hoping that we're going to have more hidden things to discover, and I expect that is going to be revealed to me and to you guys by the locals I encounter. So stay tuned. I promise you, we will have more to show. Thank you for coming in. Bye for now.